Welcome to Rafiq. In previous video, we have studied about procedure-oriented programming. There we get that we can divide a program into smaller part. They are known as function, and the functions works on variable. And when we want to communicate between two functions, or suppose two functions have to access the same data, that data have to be declared as global data or global variable, and that variable can be changed by any function at any time, and it make the data vulnerable, means there will be no security about for the data. Today we will learn about object oriented programming. Object oriented programming ot ami ki koru, programming সকলো পাৰ্টক আমি ৰিয়েল লাইফ বস্তু এটা হিচাপে ধৰি লওঁ। ফৰ এক্সাম্পল, সাপোজ এখন কাৰ আছে, কাৰত থাকিব ইঞ্জিন, হুইল, মিৰৰ, গ্লাছেছ, ডোৰ, seats, interior. These are common objects in a car. So inside the car class we can declare these objects and we can use it for making any car. This way, in OP we can save the data from unnecessary functions, or there we can set rules for who will access the data, like we can keep the data as private, public, or protected. These languages support object oriented programming: Java, C++, C#, Python, PHP, JavaScript, Ruby, Perl, Objective-C, Dart, Swift, Scala, MATLAB, etc. Now, what are the characteristics of OP? Emphasis on data rather than procedure. Now remember, in procedure-oriented programming, there emphasis on functions, not on data. But here, in object-oriented, here we give more important to the data, not to the functions. Programs are divided into objects. In procedure-oriented, we divide the program into functions, but here we divide into objects. Data structures are designed in such that they characterize the object. Functions that operate on the data of an object are tied together in the data structure. Data is hidden and cannot be accessed by external functions. There we declare the data as global data, so it can be accessed by any other function, but here we hide the data, so external function cannot easily access the data. We access the data through objects. We directly cannot access data here. New data and functions can be easily added whenever it is necessary. And in procedure oriented programming, we follow the top down approach, but here we follow bottom up approach, means both are different. One is top down and this one is bottom up, means we are going from down to top, but there we are coming from up to down. Building blocks of OP, as the name suggests, object oriented. So here object is the building block of the programming. Object is the basic unit of object oriented programming, and it represents the real life entities. An object is a thing in the real world which has certain properties and method. It may be place, person, bank account, bill, or any item. As I said, it can be car, it can be cat, dog, bill, any place name, anything. An object can be anything. An object consists state. It represents by attributes of the object. It also reflects the property of an object. Then behavior. It represented by the method of an object. It is also reflect the response of an object with another object, means how it behave with another object. And identity, it gives unique name to the object and enable the object to interact with other object. when we write a program, when we give name to the object, it should be always unique. We cannot give a similar name to two different objects. Same as variables. Method. A method is a collection of system that perform some specific tasks and that return result to the caller. As we call the function, here we call as method. How we'll call the object to do some work. A method can perform some specific tasks without returning anything. While we write a function, it returns something. But here we can perform some method without returning anything. And a class is a user-defined blueprint, prototype from which objects are created. And to create an object, we need always class. Through the class, we can declare the object and it represents properties or method that are common to all objects of one type. So here we got that procedure oriented programming is top down, but object oriented is bottom up. In procedure oriented, we depend on function, but in object oriented, we depend on objects. And in procedure oriented, there is no security about the data, but object oriented, we can hide the data by using objects and attributes. And in a object oriented programming, the main building block or the basic unit is object, and the object consists of state, behavior, identity and method, and we declare the object inside a class, and all the common object will have similar type of properties. For example, and features of object oriented programming, they are encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance and polymorphism. These are the features of OOP. First, encapsulation. The most important features of object oriented programming is encapsulation. We can define encapsulation as the method of putting everything that is required to do the job inside capsule and presenting that capsule to the user. By encapsulation, all the necessary data methods are bound together and all the necessary details are hidden to the normal user. For example, in your home you will have electric board. There you have different kind of switches. When you press the switch, it do something. তোমালোকৰ ঘৰত ইলেক্ট্ৰিক বোৰ্ড আছে, বোৰ্ডত বেলেগ বেলেগ সুইচ আছে, সুইচত যেতিয়া অন কৰা কিবা ন কিবা এটা কাম কৰিব, আইদাৰ লাইট অন হ'ব নহলে ফেন চলিব বা বেলেগ কিবা এটা কাম কৰিব. But what things are going on backside of the switchboard that you can't see? So this we do by using encapsulation. Inside a capsule, we write all the necessary tasks, whatever we have to do with the data, and when the user use it, the user is unaware about all the inside things. So we can hide the data or the tasks from a normal user. So encapsulation is the process of binding data members and method of a program together to do some object. It is the method to bind data members and method of a program together to bind object without revealing unnecessary details. Like while the electrician make the electric board, they don't tell the inside part to a normal user. It consists data method that have been bundled into a single unit. Using the method of encapsulation, the programmer cannot directly access the data. Data is only accessible through the function present inside it. As similar example, electric board, we don't directly connect the wires to turn on the light. We just press the switch, then the lights get on. Similar way, there also in encapsulation, we directly don't have access the data. We can access the data only through functions present inside a class. So it will be like that. here we have class, here we have data members plus some methods or behaviors, and inside the method we will have some variable, and this everything will keep inside a capsule or inside a block that is hidden from the normal user. Encapsulation can also be defined in two ways: data hiding and data binding. In encapsulation is the process of hiding unwanted data such as restriction accessed by any other member, and data binding, it is the process of binding the data members and method together as a whole as a class. Encapsulation adds security. Data and method can be set to private so that outside the class that data cannot be accessed. To get information about data in an object, public methods are used and access or update the data. It adds layer of security where the developer choose what data can be seen on an object by exposing the data through public method in class definition. Means here the programmer have right to hide a specific data or to show a specific data to a user. If he want to share the data, he will declare the data as public, and if the programmer want to hide the data from the normal user or from a particular method or functions, then he can use the data as private. Private data cannot be accessed from outside the class. Then abstraction. In abstraction, it display only important information by hiding implementation part. Abstraction is the most important feature of OOP. It shows only essential data or information to the user by hides the implementation of details from the user. Through abstraction, we display only the important part of the method and whatever unnecessary part that we hide it from the user. So it saves the important security role only by displaying the selected piece of data and only allowing data to be accessed through classes and modified through method, and data is protected from exposure. For example, a real world example of abstraction is driving a car. When we drive a car, we do not need to know how the engine works, as most of the driver who are actually a driver working as a driver at some offices or some, they might know some engine work, how a engine work, but most of the driver don't know how a engine work, but still they drive the car. So it work this way. Abstraction, we share only some part of the data or method, and the unnecessary part which the user should not know, we hide them from them. So by that we can secure the data. Driver uses only some small selection of tools. The engineering is hidden from the driver to make a car work. A lot of pieces have work under the hood, but exposing the information to the driver would be a dangerous distraction. Like in a car, we hide the engine through cover, and even the wiring and all, we hide it through the body. But if we exposed it to the driver or the passengers, sometimes it can be dangerous. That's why abstraction is very important features of OOP. Then polymorphism. Poly means many, morph means form. The polymorphism means one name, multiple forms. Polymorphism refers to a single function or multifunctioning operator performing different ways. Means here the same function will work in a different way. For example, here we have one method shape. We have a class shape. Inside that we have draw method, and this draw method can do different type of tasks. It can draw a line, it can draw a triangle, it can draw a rectangle, or it can draw a circle. So our method is same but it can do different type of tasks depending upon the input. So this is called as polymorphism. The above function is known as the above fundamental is known as function overloading. Here you see draw is a function and we are using it in line for drawing line, also triangle, rectangle and different kind of things. This is function overloading. Similar type we can perform operator overloading, which one operator is used for multiple purpose. For example, we are making a calculator. There, if the user press plus sign, then it should do addition. If the user press minus sign, it should do subtraction. If the user press multiply sign, then it should do product. So this also we can do by using the same function, and at that moment it will call as operator overloading. Inheritance. Inheritance is the process of acquiring inherit properties of one class to another. Means if one class is taking the property of another class, this is called as inheritance. The inheritance is the one of the most important features or principle of the object-oriented programming. The inheritance basically deal with reusability of program code, because here we are directly accessing the property of another classes. By using inheritance, programmer make use of existing code already previously written. The inheritance help to reduce overall development time for the software development, because we can easily take the properties from other classes, so we can save time. For example, suppose for car manufacturers, nowadays almost the car have similar type of functions. For a similar company like Tata, they have different model of cars. For each model, they will not design different engines. They might have used the same engine, and the engine will have same properties. So this will known as inheritance. In programming also, sometime a class can inherit the property of another class. The example of inheritance is school. Suppose a school management decide to make a software based on the data of student only. The programmer made the software and decide to collect the personal details like name, age, sex, address, etc. After 1 year, school management decide to incorporate the data to teachers to the software. The programmer can this extension within a small time, as he can reuse many codes he had written earlier by making using inheritance. I think you have understood. Suppose a user make a software which collect only students information, but after 1 year the school decided the software should also collect the teachers information. As the programmer already wrote the code to collect the students data, now the programmer what can do, he can access the property of that student class, and he can reuse it to make another teachers to collect teachers data by adding some extra fields or attributes. This is called as inheritance. By that the programmer can save time. Advantages of OP. OP support large scale and complex software development. OP offers better data protection. There we can say the data is private, protected or public. It allows code reusability, better representation of real life objects, and avoid unnecessary data exposure to the user by using abstraction, better software maintenance. As I said before, one example, at first the software collect only student information, next time we need the teachers also, so directly we can reuse it. So maintenance will not take that much time. Enhance the security, we can hide the data, by that we can enhance. Easy code modification, and polymorphism offers a lot of flexibility in OP. Polymorphism means a function can be used for many tasks. OP have some disadvantages also. These are classes tend to be very generalized. The OP program design is very tricky. A programmer who is just learning programming, for that person OOP will be a very confusing task. One need to proper planning and proper design for programming in OOP. Means whatever rules are there to make a software, the person should be follow to write a program in OOP. Programmers should be well skilled. OOP programmers are bigger when compared to other programmers. The length of the programmer developed using OOP is much larger than the procedure approach. Since the programmer become larger in size, a program become larger in size, it requires more time to execute and it lead to slow execution of the program. If we write the program in procedure oriented, it will be faster, but in OOP it need more execution time, so it can be a bit slow than the procedure oriented, and it take more time to solve the problem. Difference between OOP and OOP: programming is divided into object. Here it divided into functions. Bottom up approach, top down approach. This is written wrong. Procedure programming is bottom up, and this one is top down, and this one is bottom up. Second point is wrong in book, so correct it. It uses access specifier. It does not use access specifier. So look, what type of, sorry to interrupt, and their column headings are wrong. Procedure, in place of procedure programming, it should be object oriented programming, and in place of object oriented programming, it should be procedure oriented programming. Like in object oriented program is divided into object, and procedural program is divided into functions. And here follow bottom up approach in object orient, and procedure orient we follow top down approach. Procedure programming does not have any proper way for hiding the data, so it is less secure. But object oriented programming, we can hide the data, so it is more secure. Inheritance can be used in object oriented programming, and in procedure oriented programming, inheritance is not allowed. Inheritance means to inherit the property of another class. And in procedure orient, it's very difficult to represent a real life object. In object orient, we can easily represent a real life thing as an object. Adding new data and functions is not easy in procedure oriented, but in object oriented, easily we can add a new data or function. In procedure, overloading is not possible, but in object oriented, we can use overloading. And in procedure oriented, functions are more important than data, and here object oriented data are more important than functions. So these are some differences. This table give a bit confusing, they mix up the points. So this whatever written in the difference, this is the main part of the chapter. If we learn this part, then this much will be enough. This encapsulation, inheritance, abstraction, polymorphism, these are just in 1 or 2 lines, we cannot explain properly. For that we have to explain it through the program, which is not possible for just in one chapter. If you go in computer science, a complete paper you will get about these things, polymorphism and all, and through the programming you will know much more about it. So in next video we will discuss the questions and some important questions from this chapter. Thank you for watching. See you in a new video. Till then, take care and bye.